Hey, what's up, Graham? How's it going?
Just losing all my money at Parks.
How's the action over there at Parks?
The 2-5 is horrible.
Two five's horrible.
The 10-10's okay.
But there's a ton of action there, though, right?
They get a bunch of tables.
Yeah. And this hand that you are going to talk about is from 1010, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
1010 3K cap?
Yeah.
All right, so 3,000 buy-in. And what are the effective stacks here?
It's 2,900, and the game was not like mandatory straddle, but everybody was straddling, so it's 10-10-20.
So it's 10 10 20. Okay. 10 10 plus 20, 2,900 effective. I think this is partially why Mike G, who does Race to the $5 Blind podcast, at least partially why he says he doesn't play this game that much, is because it is straddled so often, I believe, if I'm not incorrect about that, because that's obviously a big jump from 2-5 to all of a sudden playing 10 10 20.
Yeah, definitely. And we were playing like short-handed at the must move for the majority of the time, so I want to say this hand was like six-handed.
All right, so six-handed. Okay.
The kind of lineup was there were three pros. I guess this would have been seven-handed. There were three pros and like three recreationals, including myself, and then kind of like the table spot.
Okay, so seven-handed, half and half.
Yeah. I am in the hijack. It folds me. I opened a 50 with red pocket tens.
So hero in the hijack opens, which is pretty much almost like under the gun, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hero hijack to 50 with pocket tens. Okay. You said two red tens?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The small blind calls, and he's kind of like the table spot.
Small blind calls the spot. And your heads up?
Yep.
All right. So 100, maybe 130 or so in the pot, something like that.
Yeah, it's a time game, so 130.
All right. So hero with pocket tens in position. Okay.
Flop comes queen of diamonds, jack of diamonds, nine of clubs.
Queen of diamonds, jack of diamonds, nine of clubs. Hero with pocket tens with the 10 of diamonds. Flops open-ended. Okay.
Yeah, so the small blind checks to me. I go ahead and c-bet for 100 here. I thought I was kind of torn here. I feel like you could either go big or go small. I mean, with flop straights, I think you go a little smaller, but my hand in particular felt good to start sizing up and trying, shaping the SPR to try and play a big pot.
Well, when you first emailed me this in, Graham is a late add-on here. I did wonder, I mean, do you ever consider checking here? I mean, if you're shaping the pot up, I mean, I know obviously you've got a hand that's sort of drawing towards the nuts, but are you shaping this also as possibly like running a bluff and trying to get him off of like a jack?
Yeah, I think this player type, they were kind of like they called a couple 3-bets. They were a little loose passive. Whenever they're calling out of the small blind and not 3-betting, they're probably not like the strongest player in the world. So my hand has like a little bit of showdown, but I don't think it has a ton.
So the reason why you're betting is actually kind of, for the most part, setting up a bluff with a draw. I mean, but of course it's a semi-bluff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think my hand has a lot of good properties to turn into a bluff, or check back turn and try and bluff catch, or figure okay. Something out later. So
okay, so you bet. I mean, I'm glad that we talked that out, because a lot of people would just bet and they're like, do you know why you're betting, like the properties of this hand? And by the way, I think that checking behind here can be okay as well. It's just a little bit of an interesting one. I mean, your hand.
If I had like queen 10, jack 10, I think that makes a lot more sense to check back. Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier to bluff catch down.
Yep. All right. So you bet 100.
Villain check raises to 340.
So small blind check raises here to 340. So the pot is 230 plus 340. It's 240 for you to call right now here. And you're open-ended with tens with the 10 of diamonds. There's a front door diamond draw out there. Obviously, your draw is not something that's hidden, right? Like, I mean, you don't necessarily get paid off when you hit, because it's going to put a one-liner out there. But possibly, maybe you could bluff diamonds. The only thing I would say about that, though, is the way that you sort of kind of gave a little bit of backstory that this guy is the spot. When we sort of characterize a guy as a spot, for the most part, not always, but a lot of times, if I want to try to have a game plan against the one guy that's a spot, it's mostly value oriented as a future game plan. And I'm not necessarily trying to run them off of big hands. Like if somehow this guy flop top two or a set, that I'm going to try to run a big bluff if like diamonds come and try to get him off of that. But
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah. I thought he would probably 3-bet queens and jacks pre, but he could maybe flat nines. So, I mean, against like queen jack or pocket nines, I still have pretty good equity here. And then just like due to the card distribution, unless he has like king nine of diamonds or like a middling suited ace, he doesn't. I don't really think he has a ton of flush draws here, especially because he's like a more passive villain type. Like maybe 9x of diamonds is like the one kind of flush draw you could have here, pair in a flush draw. But
Right. But if diamonds come, usually, like if a guy's going to be on diamonds, he's not going to all of a sudden check, right? Like if a diamond comes and he checks to you, well, a lot of times you can be like, he doesn't have a flush, right?
right.
So I assume that you're going ahead, possibly planning on bluffing diamonds here.
Yeah, I mean, I just figured it was too early to try and fold here. I didn't really have any particular plans. I just wanted to evaluate as I got more information.
Hero calls. So you call, right?
Uh-huh. I call. So the turn, we have the 7 of hearts, and there's 810 in the pot.
So $810, and the turn here is the 7 of hearts, which doesn't really change anything. Okay.
He bets half pot. He goes 400.
And now the small blind bets 400 here. So you're getting 3-1 here. The pot's going to be 12-10. It's 400 for you to call. If you had like all 8 outs, just in terms of direct equity here, you've got about a one out of, say, like 5.5 chance of hitting. And I'm doing like 8 outs into like, say, 44 unseen cards type of thing.
So my 10 could be good sometimes too.
Yeah, your 10 could be good. I mean, you could have as many as 10 outs. But let's just say that your straight draw, that you just had a straight draw here. Because I actually put up, I think it was I think it was a tweet or a community post asking about some of the math on this. The way that you do the math, if you had one out of a 5.5 chance of making your hand, meaning that you're getting 4.5 to 1 on your money, you basically need to make, in terms of break even, you take the bet size and you multiply by the odds. So 400 times 4.5 is 1,800. You would need to make 1,800 here from the pot in order to, say, call 400. Well, when you bet 400 into 800, you're calling to win 1,200 anyways. Right now, without anything, there's 1,200 in there. So if you make this call, and let's say you were just trying to hit off your hand, you just need to make an additional 600 for it to be break even. If you do call, now the pot is 1,600 when you put your money in. So 600 doesn't actually represent that gigantic a portion of the pot size. If the pot's 1,600, the only thing that I would say about this, though, is, of course, you don't really have a hidden draw. It's gonna be a one-liner out there. Although I will say, though, that everybody, especially spots, they love to see front door diamonds. So if somehow, like, the river was an 8 and he checked, and the river was a king and he checked, I think that you would get paid off here a lot more than people think, because the guy might put you on busted diamonds. So that's number one. Number two, to make this call, I assume that you're planning on bluffing diamonds some of the time as well.
I mean, it really depends. I mean, I think this villain type is going to play pretty straight up on rivers. So if the river is a diamond and he just goes ahead and bets again,
well, of course, right? You're just going to give it up. But if he checked, maybe you go for it.
I think it's close here. Like I probably would never jam here. Like I don't think it really makes any sense to jam the turn. I would rather. I just don't think I'm going to get the folds I would need to. So
right.
But their size also didn't feel super strong. 400 into 810. Like I feel like a made hand, like a very strong hand, would want to go bigger to protect against diamonds and whatnot. So that also kind of factored into it.
It could be like one of these ones where it's like a queen jack-ish, queen 9, jack 9 type of holding here, which is better than one pair that wants to protect, but he doesn't want to put that much money in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so I assume for those reasons you call.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's close.
Actually, again, and I would probably, a lot of people would say, oh, maybe this is just a fold, but I just ran through the math. I actually like, even though you're basically I mean, I would like a more hidden open-ended straight draw as opposed to like a one-liner if you make your hand. But I think one of the more profitable plays in certain situations is when you think your opponent has a big hand and you're open-ended and you can represent the flush. You think your opponent's capable of folding, but you have the other draw, so that when the straight comes in, you get paid off because they think you've busted out on the flush. So you get fold equity on the front door side with the flush side, and then you get paid off when you make your hand. Again, your hand, it's going to be a one-liner out there, but still, I still think you could probably make 600 if the king or the 8 came in. Of course, though, 1/3 of the kings and the 8s are going to be front door diamonds, though, too, right? And that's going to fill the front door flushing side. But 16-10 here to the river, okay.
River is the nine of diamonds, so the front row flush draw comes in,
So,
and the villain checks it to me.
so the board is queen of diamonds, jack of diamonds, nine of clubs. Hero bets pocket tens for 100, gets check raised, he calls, turns to seven of hearts. Now small blind bets half the size of the pot, hero calls. And now the river's the nine of diamonds, so it pairs the bottom card and it completes the front door diamond. And now the small blind checks. Now, what I would say here, Graham, and I think you probably will agree with me, is that usually, especially kind of a spotty type of player here, is not going to be checking a hand that they have improved upon. Meaning, like, if he had jack nine or queen nine, I would expect him to continue to bet here a lot. If somehow he was making a play at you with, well, you can't have ace 10 of diamonds because you have the 10 of diamonds, some sort of flush draw, I would expect him to bet here a lot. Like if he had like ace 5 of diamonds, you know what I'm saying? So when he checks, that is a lot of information. Do you agree with me here with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think he might. I think he might check some like queen nine, jack nine, just because the flush comes in. I really hadn't gotten to play with him for too long, but I mean, I could see him checking some full houses, but I'd be kind of surprised to see him check flushes here.
So in terms of the value types of his range that this card is very bad for, right? It would be queen jack. And then if he somehow flopped a straight, which is less likely because you hold two tens in your hand. And then also too, I think you make a good point about that turn sizing. It's kind of less indicative that he has those hands because of that turn sizing. I mean, it's possible. So if you ever think that you're once in a while you're getting trapped here, if you do want to bluff, and obviously I think you don't have any type of showdown value here, but if you ever think that there's occasionally he might be trapping you with some of those boat types of holdings, then what is the amount here to fold out? Is there an amount to fold out a straight? Is there an amount here to fold out, say, queen jack? Like if it was just queen jack here and now queen jack actually even loses to overpairs, I don't know. I mean, you've put in, what have you got, like 2,200 left in your stack, something like that?
Yeah, my notes say like 2.1, but
2.1. I don't know if you would necessarily have to rip it all in to get a fold here from queen jack. Could you bet like
no, queen jack. Yeah,
right.
I mean, I think if I go like 800 to 1K, queen jack probably folds pretty easily.
That's what I was kind of thinking about, because if you were to take the all-in type of sizing, that would sort of say that you're trying to get him to fold out a straight when you have two tens in your hand, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some. I would hate to go like a little bit too small and somehow get hero called. I mean, I think I would rather run a bluff that's too big than one that's too small whenever he doesn't have like a ton of traps here. Like I don't think he has queen nine off, jack nine off, so it's just like a couple combos of queen nine, jack nine suited. Whereas he has a ton of queen jack. He has some. He probably has 10-8 suited. He probably has king 10 off. He might have king 10 off. So there's definitely a lot fewer combos of traps than there are of value that got a bad river.
I still think with you holding two tens in your hand and no guarantee that this guy is going to fold out a straight, I kind of like, and there's a full 9 combos of like queen jack, and who knows? I mean, is it possible that he might have like ace queen here?
No,
you don't think so? Why, just too passive, or?
Yeah,
I still kind of like 11 to 1200 here. What was the sizing that you ended up taking here?
I jammed.
Hero. Oh, now don't give me a result because I want to.
No, I won't. Yeah.
So hero jam. So you actually decide to take the all-in sizing, thinking that he might fold out some straights?
Pretty much, I just thought once he checked that river, he didn't have a flush, and it cut down on some of his value combos, like sets of nines. So I thought it was just a good spot to try and pull the trigger. And you know, if he only really ever calls me with full houses, then it's not like my blockers are necessarily super relevant. But now, I just felt like based on the line he took, it was very hard for him to have a flush or a straight.
Now I want to do something that I don't think I've ever done here on the show before. I'm going to pull a little bit of an audible because I want to tell you guys that when Graham sent me this hand earlier this morning, I actually read the hand incorrectly. And I'm going to go back to the turn, and I want to change the hand up because I think it actually is going to fit into a little bit to the river decision to how I thought that the hand went down. So same action here on the flop. Now, instead of the turn being the 7 of hearts, the turn is the 8 of hearts. So Queen Jack 9, hero bets 100, small blind check raises to 340, hero calls, pot's 810. Now on the turn, small blind bets 400, hero calls. And I don't think you're necessarily always raising turn here if the turn was an 8 here, Graham, right? I mean, you're still behind to King 10, and the fact that the guy's still betting.
I don't see any reason to raise the turn.
Okay. So hero calls, we arrive on the river, the exact same situation. And now the river is the 9 of diamonds and the small blind checks. What do you do with pocket tens here with the 10 of diamonds? Because obviously the difference here between what really happened in this scenario is that you have a straight now, right? And you beat, Queen Jack and those types of holdings. But could you ever get somebody off of a 10 here? And the fact that the guy bet the turn is kind of indicative that he'd have a 10. You'd think, well, what is his hands? Because he's not betting the turn like with Queen Jack or a lot of sets and stuff like that. So what 10s does he have? It's 10-8 and King 10. Now you lose to King 10 if you jam and he calls, but you're chopping against 10-8. I thought this was really interesting because I might jam here with 10-10 on Queen Jack 9-8-9 to try to get a guy off of a 10 or a chop.
If he's not really betting Queen Jack on the turn like you said, so if his range is King 10, 10-8,
yep,
it's just really a question of if he's going to fold King 10 because I mean it feels a little dicey. I'm not sure why. It just seems like he on this run out where there's not a one liner to a 10 on the original run out, then I feel like on that run out I feel like it's harder to find bluffs or like harder to find like other value. You know what I mean? Whereas if the turn's an 8, I can just have like Queen 10, Jack 10, 10-8, 10-9. So I just feel like he calls more when the turn's a one-liner and river still brings in.
Really?
Flush and board
pair. With a straight? Because I was actually thinking about the opposite way. I actually thought that here, with the one-liner out there, that you actually might get way more folds here from King 10 if it came out Queen Jack 9-8-9 as opposed to your actual hand, which was the 7 of hearts, and you're trying to rip to get him to fold King 10. I'm going to put the regular hand back up here. I actually thought of it the opposite way.
Yeah, I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just feel like people tend to get more sticky on like 4-liners with their straights, but it's kind of hard for me to say. I really hadn't got to play too much with him,
So going back to the original hand, you end up jamming here. Again, personally, I think I kind of like a smaller bet, though, because I don't know if you're going to get the folds that you want out. Although the turn sizing is kind of interesting, though. And I just want to try to... I mean, what you're saying, you said, well, I'd hate to under bluff here. I mean, you kind of are looking for bluff efficiency where you're trying to, bluff an amount that's the least amount that's going to get the job done, as opposed to, say, if he's going to call with King 10 for 2,100 or he's going to call with King 10 for 1,200, but you get Queen Jack to fold out in both scenarios, then 1,200 is a better bet. Yeah. So what ended up happening?
So I jammed. We kind of sit back and look kind of disgusted. So that was good. I was, if I got snapped here, that would have been really unfortunate. But he just kind of sat back, looked kind of disgusted. Just said to himself, "Well, I mean, there's no way he has a bluff here. I can't think of any bluffs." And he folded face down, but he claimed he folded a straight.
He claims he folded a straight.
So there's more combos of King 10 than 10-8. So maybe it was King 10, maybe it was 10-8. We'll never know. But I went ahead and showed that one after two, just because he said there's no bluffs there.
Well, the interesting thing is that, we should talk about like the mentality of maybe like a fishy guy and like what they would lie. It's not all that consistent to me that a guy who actually holds Queen Jack would say, "Oh, I folded a straight." I don't know. Right. You'd have to be quite the talker and the liar to do that. So.
I'd be shocked if he folded a flush. So
right. Oh yeah, I don't think so. And I don't think he's folding a flush and then telling you that he has a straight. The question really is he got Queen Jack or not? I do wonder about the sizing though on the turn. And then, like I said, the other scenario with the 8 on the turn is also very interesting when you hold 10-10. I wish you luck, Graham. I hope you can turn things around.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll see. We'll
All right.
hopefully Parx Tuesday does it for us.
All right. Thanks for the call, Graham. I appreciate it.